Hello. Currently looking at Google Earth. This has a representation of the occasionally zoom into the areas in the globe to more of an understanding of these wildfires that we're about to cover are massive. We're not looking at simple bushfires, brush fires in Africa, wildfires in South America. Looking at distinct fire patterns and fire activity and smoke in certain regions that we've been keeping up on the last few weeks. Certainly, parts of Africa right now that we've been keeping an eye on are Senegal, Cameroon, Burkina Faso, and northern Nigeria. Nigeria is a country of over 200 million people. It's worth keeping tabs on. Industrialized country. Surrounded by fire right now. Because we've looked at Cameroon, we've looked at Burkina Faso, looked at Mali. Mali has a strange shape as a country. So fire seems to transit between the southern halves pretty quickly since it's pretty thin. I don't think Google Earth has hard borders, but here is Senegal. Senegal right there. We'll be looking at that with a different satellite imagery, not use Google Earth. Google Earth isn't. We're looking at as real time as we can find satellite imagery, either in 10-minute increments or using Sentinel Hub to find discrete burnt land, I would say. Since we're looking for devastated land that's been burned, fades in time, but it's still, you can see the scars from fire. Cameroon as well. I have not heard of any volcanoes active in Africa except for Rwanda, Democratic Republic of Congo. That flowed at people without warning. Lava wall that was 40 feet tall. People had to flee on the escape of volcano eruption. They had no warning. Still suffering because you can't remove that material. It's there now. 3-foot wall of lava. Now this is Burkina Faso. Smaller landlocked country, but very near to Nigeria. We have fires that pointed out. Now, I haven't seen too many wildfires in South America. Not that there are, but it's been a lot of cloud coverage lately. And Australia. Australia will take a minute. They've been seeing a lot of precipitation, a lot of rain, not a lot of thunder, but they do have a cyclone barreling into them like that. That's going to give a lot of precipitation. area of Queensland that's desperately needing all the rain it can get, keep the land, and keep the drought away. We'll look at drought conditions too in Africa and South America and Australia. Well, I'll tell you, at least in South America, it's bad. You don't have to show you on a map based on gauges, data read that dictates soil moisture. We know that fire and heat drives away water, and moisture and water will escape in any way possible. Very violent. Okay, I'm gonna close that window here. Now I have on the right hand side is a live refresh of earthquakes. Due to the large earthquakes that happened, 7 point plus, have happened over the last few days, followed by dozens of very strong aftershocks. I'm going to look that up now. Considering that the Philippines keeps filling up the list. I don't have it filtered for Philippines, just they are having an earthquake form, or these are aftershocks from the plate movement. Very violent earthquakes in place. There's a great compilation of videos based on the earthquakes in the Philippines lately. This channel is called Earthquake Compilations. Great work. I don't know how they get so much footage so fast, and they must pay for it. Showing footage that isn't your own is quick death of a channel. Any footage. Where's the fair use? Okay, so as we said here, look at Senegal. We're going to look at Cameroon, Mali, and Burkina Faso. And if time, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Limpopo, South Africa. But we might not have time for that because we're going to jump around before that. We're going to jump around from Africa to Australia before we get into any South Africa and before we get into Zimbabwe or Mozambique. Because Senegal, Mali, Cameroon, Nigeria are massive. We'll start in the deep West Africa and Senegal. See all these patches here. Patch here. Very long. These fires can connect in various different ways. We haven't even zoomed in. Let me zoom in further now. The darker the land, the more recent the burn. or it's smoldering, or it's still on fire. Either way, all these dark blotches of land are all burnt earth. For a variety of reasons that it would be on fire, but mostly what I've been seeing, especially in India, is agricultural purposes burning land, which, no, don't do it. Things that are in the soil burn out, you couldn't do napalm. But just mass burning of land, previous crops, why? Mix it in with the soil. Get what the soil richness is without enriching the soil. We use bags of Miracle Grow, which is just dirt mixed with pesticide. What are you doing? Growing our food with this stuff. I don't mean like we, I just mean like anybody using a garden with Miracle Grow like that, they're eating dirt, pesticide. Pick for flowers and like that. Food purposes. You can grow potatoes in Miracle Grow. You can grow potatoes in a barrel of dirt. It doesn't have Miracle Grow in it. It has Miracle in the title. Hear that? Fucking stupid. Just buy topsoil from a local place that's green. You don't have to get like this fine processed dirt that vacuum sealed bag that's 20 pounds but it feels like it's 50. Sorry. A lot of bags of dirt. A lot of bags. Hundreds. Hundreds of bags of. Okay. Now while we're looking at Earth, speaking of Earth, start seeing patterns emerge. What we have here is what happens when we have a slope. You haven't noticed? Got some water inside. Okay. Now we have wind that's blowing, let's say, southeast. The fire up here is burning path of least resistance, so it's constantly being fed fresh air and fanned and blotted out. So it's going to look like arcing because wind fanned, wind driven flames are going to bellow. That's when you start seeing these straight burns. They kind of have this smiley face arc. That's because the flank of the wildfire or this active fire perimeter is pushing out all this flame as quickly as it can, burning any fuel and material that will allow it. If we're looking at smoke, smoke acts as a pestilence and nothing thrives. Smoke or under smoke is an act of war. So being in an area that's frequented by wildfires, which now it's a planet, seen with Canada, the Canadian wildfires affecting Greenland, Northeast, Midwest, and Canada and Alaska. Those were some really insane fires to cover. Now we're just seeing smaller fires. It's more interesting that we're finding so many fires that just within the last 2 or 3 days they can travel 80 kilometers just in a few short days. After that, they hit a sand dune, they go dunes, races back all the way down each ridge. Fire loves slopes. This is why. Is that you'll have the fire and it's going down the slope here and it's going to turn away. Not because of the water, because of the wind. And as soon as the slope allows the fire to use its own momentum, travel back up. And each time that the fire comes down here, letting out smoke from the low-lying vegetation. The smoke drops particulates on the other side of the river, or the ditch, channel, which starts a fire. On the other side. Fire loves slopes, and that is why you're going to see, like, I can just zoom in to any dark patchy area. It's going to be near a river channel, ditch, irrigation channel, anything. That's what you're going to, what we're seeing right here. That there's fire here in the active perimeter, right there. Burns out, burns true. And it starts over again. It's just the way of the land, because these aren't exact fires that you could give a name to. These are wild. These are burning around river systems. They create pollution in the river systems. They cause wildlife to flee. Drives away pretty much everything in a local ecology that can't escape it by going around. But even then, you'd have to go underground pretty deep, because talking about fires raging above your head, you're just probably a foot or two or more underground. Very little critter. And the flames can be over 700 degrees at least. It's a firestorm. Heat within the wildfire is what would be the most devastating. Nobody can withstand that kind of thermal regulation. Nobody can withstand that kind of heat. Talking about several times that of a sauna. You're also mixing with smoke, particulate, fire, fast-moving fire. So fires, especially on river systems, like they're cascading, sparking. One of the reasons because you get this blowout effect as soon as fire changes counterclockwise, comes the other way. You're gonna get this blowout effect, and it's going to fan the flame in relation to vortex it finds itself in by traveling across the slope. And the smoke is going to stay stagnant. Smoke doesn't move on its own. Smoke is sticky. It'll find its own and it'll stick to it. It'll be a leader smoke. So if suddenly they shoot a water cannon into a great deal of clouds of smoke, you're going to be able to control that smoke from being a cave and whatever like this. But you don't have that here. None of that here. You're just hoping that the terrain doesn't give the fire too much advantage to go off. So far, we're not seeing a lot of that here. Well, we are. But it's more patchy. It's not very scorched. Now, this is actual fire. This isn't data represent what the fire looks like. This isn't This is what it looks like. A slow moving, deep seated fire that you can see on satellite yourself. This is what happens when you get these blowout effects. Have just a bunch of grass, nutrient rich soil underneath. The fire rips that out, all that into the air. So burning soil is bad. You don't need to burn soil to sustain a last crop's failure. Whatever the purpose is, don't need to burn land. If you're burning land, use it for cattle. Prion disease is not going. You can upheaval 6 feet of dirt by 2 mile by 2 mile. That land is still going to have disease. Can't get away from the blight. But you allow it to travel by smoke, so great. Here. Some active fires in this area. Let's take a time lapse. This is Senegal, West Africa. I'm gonna have to go back a little bit longer. That's good. So, dates here on the top right hand side. Right there. Now we see some patches, some patches, some patches. This is from 5th. Date up here. Right here. Okay. Now let's fade. Play. Some spotty scorched earth. Play again. We're now on the 15th. We're seeing massive amount of fires all throughout eastern Senegal. Cloud obstruction. Frame number 5. More deeper blazes. Cloud obstruction, those are clouds that is now where they see themselves faced with a lot of fire. This is Senegal, West Africa. Now, I zoomed up a lot more, a lot higher to 20 kilometers. I believe it was 2 kilometers. So it's a huge factor. I zoomed up to a factor of 10 to where we were before, because the wildfires just seem to bunch up and shake tremendously. I'll just let this play for a minute. Pretty wild. So, pretty wild how many fires, in dozens of fires here, and these fires they're all pretty big, but when they start getting closer together, they start merging. When you start seeing these, uh, not just mega fires, but you'll have one fire that's traveling south, one fire that's traveling east, and they're not just going to cancel each other out. Fires are going to keep continuing transiting, especially if there are columns of smoke plumes that are swirling and intertwining and causing smoke to strengthen itself between two fires, allowing the fire to travel across the land. And each side will get a fire and a fire. So it's really complicated. We're seeing a complex amount of fires that are just almost otherworldly. Because you want to think that fire is a part of nature, that what we're seeing lately is normal. Not. Not. No easy question or simple answer. We just know that this kind of activity is unreal. You're seeing hundreds of square kilometers of land being burned, unless it's for agricultural purposes and they're controlled burns, which don't do, or they were trying to uh, fight these fires, they're trying to control these flames, and they broke containment. The fire broke containment, not the people. Firefighting in Africa isn't something I really looked into before, and that's quite interesting. Because these areas that you're seeing, we're seeing a lot of wildfires, fires, fires, fires in the bush. We're not seeing them dissipate. We're just seeing these flames travel. That fire doesn't seem to gain a lot of momentum as in strength. It just seems to be relatively strong, and it all over the land without uh, of a challenge. And if there is wildfire fighting, it's probably going to be from the village. You're going to see these areas that are. I'm just using this as an example. This is. You'll have this circle here that's going to represent a village, a settlement, a city of varying sizes. And you're going to have these wildfires here. They knock that out. The wildfire, it transits on a hill, runs up a slope, put that out. And you start seeing a pattern emerging. I don't know if this is true in other countries. I really only see this in Africa. But you start seeing previous scars and previous wildfires, previous battles, all throughout rings around the area. And you can zoom in and you can plainly see that there's a society, there's a civilization there, and they are fighting hard. I'm not saying this area is one of them, because we'll find some. They exist. Because these kind of wildfires we're seeing, especially in West Africa, a lot of ground to cover, a lot more low-lying ground. See, here's what makes me nervous. Apache, this fire like this, 13 kilometers. But the way we look at fires is we look at fires as an entity because we give them names. But when the fires are happening too quickly to even notice, and you're just seeing the remnants of the land that was scorched, there's no names to attribute to that fire. There's no way to associate that fire to how far it traveled or what. If tradition in Africa is to where you would call the fire based on region, its hill, its area that it is, that's one thing. But who's fighting these fires in the brush? There would be massive wildlife conflict and wildlife conflict as a result of trying to push in heavy machinery that wouldn't be needed to put out the flames like this. It's just massive. These. Okay, so here, the pretty deep fire here. These patch of the roof here. City down here. Tamagunda. This is an example, not as extreme as that I was describing, but wildfires burning all around Senegal. All these dark patches, and now they're spreading west, further out west Senegal, further out west settlements, cities. See how green and lush this is by Catherine, but its southwest side experiencing fire. A lot of hilly slopes, and what do we say about slopes? This fire loves slopes, and they'll do magic on a slope. You won't see it, and it'll come back stronger, faster. Using its own momentum, it's using the momentum of the slope, it's using wind, using the path of least resistance. It's tricky, these wildfires. You don't know how deep they really can go. So on surface, everything looks fine, but a tree stump had a smoldering fire in it that was burning for days that went unnoticed, that kick-started a whole new event of fires. That happens frequently. But we're talking about, get an overall estimate. Very, 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 very rough estimate. As rough as I probably would think. Say 1,200 square kilometers is not exactly one fire. You're looking at dozens, hundreds of body fires all throughout the Senegal. Fires, very much so, all over the. This might go underreported. But we keep up with it here. Because these fires build upon themselves. The work builds upon itself. If I go back to my channel and I search for Cameroon, I'm going to be able to see all of the associated fires that I covered with Cameroon. Be able to get a bigger picture of these areas as time goes on, because all we can really do is wait and watch. A lot of there are dozens of wildfires burning right here. This is Burkina Faso. You got a fire right here, fire right here, and then any number of fires burning right here, fire right here. There's a deep-seated fire. That's what it looks like. That's just burning out. Because these fires, if they're not being wind-driven, they're not going up and down a slope. They're going to be burning outwards. So they decide fire goes out, continues on pace, going forward, and then these two fires intertwine and merge. All this gets burned in the meantime. While this could be smoldering still back here, allowing for other splits. Really just seeing I would say a great burning of Senegal, East Senegal, West Africa, to Burkina Faso. I'm trying not to cover countries that are plagued by war, civil war, and social unrest, resistance, for a variety of reasons. But when the fires are to the point that, like, how can you possibly avoid talking about something as important as several countries in Africa that are burning without impunity being put out? We're zooming in right now to dozens of fires that are currently burning very brightly, I might add. Very illuminating. Now this isn't a compilation of images. These fires aren't representations of fire. This is what it really looks like on satellite. They look like while they are burning. At least when they were burning in these countries of Africa. Not a terrifying amount, but they just never seem to end. And they've been burning body like this. You see here on the 15th of November, see some fires right here. Play. See a growing amount of blazes across the land. Play again. Without coverage, appeared. And the last frame. This jump in fire is unreal. This is unnatural for sure. The kind of fire that we're seeing right here is devastating to any ecology that is going to rip through. Rip through it does. Looks like it just right out of these river systems here charges northwest hard. It's so spotty and blotchy. The fires could be traveling in the slope where it finds its vortex. It travels sideways or at an angle. It's slower happening, but when the fire takes hold finally, it's gonna go. And exactly what we're seeing here. We're seeing it dozens and dozens of times in a row in just 2 short days. Instead of, if anybody would want to argue that it's natural to see fire as a natural occurring element, yes. But when it's an emergency, what do you do in case of fire? It isn't hard. Putting out fires in Africa, though, especially ones deep in the bush, that would be especially challenging. You're not going to have smoke jumpers. You're not going to have people that are wildland firefighters. What do you do if the local mining consortium, one that was responsible for the fire because mining tailed fire, can't win? Watch fires. They are. This isn't right. 100 active fire perimeters. Since the way they burn, they don't disconnect. They always have this umbilical. No, not really umbilical. Ephemeral. It has this ephemeral flame that's burning outside the boundary, just destroying all these lush forest jungles. Drives moisture and water out of the river systems by causing it to boil. A lot of hazards. And between Senegal and Faso, we're seeing hundreds. Yeah, we're in northwestern Nigeria. Zooming in on some fires here. Especially troubling. You can see these can be a pinch point. Fire isn't just going to go race around and not generate whatever is here. It's going to go out, through, and go over here. It's still going to go out somewhere here. Well, whoa. These, let's say worst case scenario, all these fires connect. 4 kilometers. This is massive. Africa, the new Australia when it comes to fire. I think so. Hmm. Well, I'm not being able to get a time lapse out of this area, but it is rather extreme. This is burning neighboring. This is burning in a country 230 million. You would abuse these slopes or river systems. Canals, mountains, slopes, hills. All the same, the fire is just going to make it bare. Fires just keep going. further east I go, they continue to burn. And right now we are still in Nigeria, northern Nigeria, northwestern Nigeria, seeing massive, massive fires. More zombie fires. They don't stop. They just lumbering around. Cameroon. Cameroon seeing fire as well. Whole area. Able to get time lapse and some just might be down. Let's try refreshing. There we go. Smoke. Saw. This is knife to coverage. See the increase. All those dark blotches fires. Every single one of those that you see go from green to dark, brownish, reddish, blackish hue is previously burned land, but we're also seeing a lot of actual fire itself, especially in the center regions of this area in northwestern Nigeria. Besides that, like some smoke right here. Does not pick up cloud coverage. Only definitely putting out smoke. Cameroon might be a little different. Huh. Quaint because the cities be large. Ah, there's fire. Oh, alright. I believe that is all the time I have for today. Wow. We didn't have Needed more time to get. Looks like Cameroon, southern Cameroon. Although these, I don't have a hard lines. Keep forgetting to bring up first. I gotta remember to bring up do the hard lines for borders, just so turning on borders doesn't actually put borders on. Or the rivers and lakes highlighted, but I can't get borders between Google Earth and this. I have to look. Tropical cyclone Jasper, Category 2 tropical cyclone, Category 4 tropical cyclone, curling into Queensland. Cloudy, very cloudy in South America. Well, all the time I have today. For watching, thank you for tuning in. Please like and subscribe, it helps me immensely. My channel, I continue to grow. Good night. Have a good day. Good night.